Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today we are going to change the tempo just a little bit because we are in Portugal right now testing the brand new Dacia Jogger. And you might be saying right now, what is he talking about with brand new? Well, this is the hybrid version, the most anticipated one, because a lot of customers have shown interest in a hybrid drivetrain from the Romanian manufacturer. And as fate would have it, they have actually launched it right now. So we're basically 1 year away from my previous video with the Dacia Jogger on this channel, when I was back in the south of France testing the internal combustion version. Well, in the meantime, a couple of things have changed. Well, these cars, the hybrid ones, will all be delivered with the new Dacia brand identity. So from the outside, you will notice you have a new grille up front that's devoid of any type of chrome. You have the new Dacia logo, and on the back of the car we have the new Dacia logo in typewriter. So those are the exterior changes, but other than that, nothing changed on the Jogger in between that moment when I tested the internal combustion version and this moment when I'm in Portugal testing the hybrid version. However, if you want to differentiate the hybrid version from the internal combustion engine version, you really can't do that from the outside, except for a small sticker on the tailgate telling you that this is a hybrid, but that could easily be peeled off and nobody would know the better. However, just like on the internal combustion version, you can customize this car in a number of ways. You can choose from different paint colors. We have the terracotta brown one over here. You can choose between different wheel sizes and so on, depending on the model you get, on the equipment version you have, and so on. We're driving the Expression version right now, which is like the most affordable, the entry point into the hybrid game for the Jogger, for example. But there are more expensive versions, such as the Extreme one, but they will depend on the market you're in right now. But I know you're interested in different things. For example, how does the interior feel compared to a regular Jogger? Well, the biggest difference is right in front of me is the instrument cluster, which now is all digital. We have a 7-inch display and it looks exactly like the one on Renault models built on the same platform, the CMF-B platform in this case. So you have a beautiful animation that actually shows you the amount of power you're using, if you're using the electric power, or if you're using the internal combustion engine as well. And it also shows you when the car is recuperating energy and recharging the battery using the electric motor up front. So yeah, pretty clear cut, but you don't get the analog instrument cluster we get on any other Jogger model. Also inside we have the new Dacia brand identity on the steering wheel. We have the new logo in typewriter, and right now we're on top of a beautiful bridge here in Portugal, and everything looks absolutely spectacular. I wish you guys were with me so you can enjoy this sunset with me. Now, leaving that aside, the material quality is the same, and the most important thing a lot of you will be curious about is the space. Well, Dacia was actually quite smart about it, because they added the 1.2 kilowatt-hour battery that this car has to use, as it is a hybrid, in the back, right where the LPG tank would be on the Eco G cars, or where the spare wheel would be. So this way, the loading capacity hasn't changed at all. You can still configure this car with 5 or 7 seats, and nothing changed in terms of room. Very smart move from Dacia in this regard. Also, since this is a bigger, heavier car, the battery at the back is water cooled. So because it will be, the power draw will be more intensive, so the heat cycles will be more often, so it is water cooled. The battery is water cooled right now. But let's talk about the engine and the drivetrain. Well, as you would expect, it's the same as on Renault models. Any other Renault E-Tech model you can think of uses the same layout. So the Captur, the Arcana, or the Clio models also use this drivetrain. Basically, we're looking at a 1.6 liter naturally aspirated engine capable of delivering 91 horsepower and up to 148 Newton meters of torque, held by 2 electric motors. There's a 49 horsepower electric motor that powers the wheels and can also act like as a generator whenever you are slowing down and recuperating energy. And there's also an electric motor inside the gearbox that's good for about 20 horsepower, but its only function is to generate energy and to synchronize the gearbox to the internal combustion engine, because this car doesn't have a clutch. So it has a gearbox that has 2 gears for the electric motor and 4 for the internal combustion one. In total 6 gears, if you will, but Renault says you can get up to 15 different driving modes because there's a very smart computer on board that actually mixes and matches those gears in 15 different ways. So you don't have a clutch. That electric motor I was telling you about makes sure the internal combustion engine and the electric one are synchronized whenever the car switches from electric power to internal combustion power and so on. Luckily for you, you don't really have to remember all that stuff because the car will be doing everything for you. So how does it drive? Well, just as you would expect a car like this to drive. If you've ever driven a Renault with the E-Tech powertrain, you probably know how it feels. Whenever the car jumps from internal combustion to electric power, you don't really feel anything. The only thing you feel is the noise of the internal combustion engine. But since this is a 4-cylinder compared to the 3-cylinder engines on the rest of the range, it feels a lot more balanced and a lot more refined. And around town, Renault says, or Dacia says, that you will be driving this car 80% of the time using the electric motor alone, because 49 horsepower will be enough for anything up to 50-60 kilometers an hour, and the car will try to use electricity a lot more than petrol in order to make the car as efficient as possible. So they say this would be 40% more efficient than the ICE version equivalent. So with 140 horsepower, there's plenty of power on tap. The instant torque from the electric motor makes this car feel a lot more agile than you would expect. There has also been a hike in the total weight of the car. So there's 180 extra kilos you have to carry around. And yeah, that is felt in the bends. Also, according to Dacia representatives, the suspension has been adapted for the new weight, so the car has a total weight of close to 1.4 tons, but you do have more power than on the regular Jogger, so you still have about 100 horsepower per ton on board of this car, so it shouldn't be an issue. And actually, when I drove the car around town, it feels very relaxed and very agile. You will be able to do any kind of overtaking that you would prefer. Also, outside the city limits, up to 120 kilometers an hour, the car accelerates rather nicely. You won't have any issues whatsoever doing any kind of overtaking. So for those who criticized the Jogger at first, that it didn't have enough power with 100 or 110 horsepower, I hope this should prove to be enough. As for the gearbox and the drivetrain, well, there are moments when you feel like the internal combustion engine is revved excessively. Even though you're doing like 50 kilometers an hour, the car does seem to be revving it a bit more than you would expect, but I'm guessing it has to do a lot with just how much charge you have in the battery, so that the excess power developed by the internal combustion engine can be fed into the battery. That's my guess. It hasn't been confirmed by any official, but that's my guess as to why the car behaves in this way. Also, there's a bit of a hiccup up over 115 kilometers an hour where the car switches gears, and there's a bit of a delay in the way it does so, but it's really not that bothersome at the end of the day. As for the suspension, even though I mentioned it was modified, it's still pretty comfortable and pretty silent overall. The sound insulation inside this car could be better at higher speeds, but you know what, it's a Dacia, it's cheap, so you really shouldn't expect too much in that regard. If you do have high expectations, I think that's a you problem at the end of the day. So what about the energy consumption? What about the fuel consumption? Well, what I can tell you is that I didn't do my usual fuel consumption test with this car. I didn't have enough time. As I said, I'm quite a bit in a rush right now, but we covered 270 kilometers today, and we have an average fuel consumption of 5.7 liters per 100 kilometers covered, with an average speed of 47.1 kilometers per hour. So I really didn't bother to hypermile this car. I pushed it to the absolute limit a couple of times, and that's the energy consumption, the fuel consumption I got. I think it's pretty good. I think 5.7 liters per 100 kilometers covered is pretty good. We did about, I mean, the car did show a range of, estimated range of 730 kilometers today, but if my math isn't wrong, I think you could do about 800 to 900 kilometers with a full gas of petrol if you wanted to. So yeah, those are pretty good numbers. So what's the conclusion? Well, the pricing will play a key part in the way this car is received by potential customers. And I can't really tell how much it will cost in your home country or anything like that. But it's a 7-seater, it's a hybrid, and it's probably going to be about 24,000 euros. And I think it really has no rival right now in this space. Tell me if I'm wrong and what else you would buy with this kind of money. And until next time, don't forget to subscribe, to like, share, and of course subscribe, and don't forget to feed your passions. Ciao.